Well, hello, I'm Mike Festiva. Welcome back. This is a 6-month, 22-hour review of the RS06 mini diesel skid steer, and this is going to kind of cover the last 6 months of what I've done with it, what kind of experience I've had with the machine, and what kind of problems I've had with it. So stick around, enjoy the video. So some of you probably wonder why 6 months and 22 hours. Well, I got the machine in October, and out in Western Washington here, we get constant rain. We're between working 2 jobs and trying to find a dry day where you're not making a bunch of mud. Well, that's all I could fit in over the winter, but I've got a lot of jobs done. We're going to talk about them. In the last 6 months, I've moved at least 80,000 pounds of gravel and about 50,000 pounds of soil with this machine, and it's worked really well. It's quite quick. I'm really impressed with the power this machine has, the bucket capacity, and track durability on this machine. So let's jump into that, and we'll cover my experience. So one of the first projects I did was I cut this whole area down about 1 foot and dragged all the dirt out to kind of make more of a level parking area, and brought in 3 8,000-pound loads of gravel in my hydraulic dump trailer. I also graded my driveway. I did all that in about 2.5 hours, used about 1.5 gallons of diesel, and just really improving the property here. This was back in October, just kind of racing the time with the rain. Another thing I did is I put in a service road, about 80 feet of a service road, and just kind of regraded this old trail with this thing, and it cuts really good, just virgin soil. It doesn't have too bad of a problem. Like, it's got way more weight and pushing power than my gas skid steer ever had. So I did that, laid down some road grade material, just starting on a service road, and still got a lot more to do, but this is just a project I did one afternoon and between rainstorms, and got the service road put in, and pretty happy way the machine worked. Next project I did in late fall was I cut this embankment back with this machine, and it did pretty good. Again, just scraping up the hillside till I got to some pretty heavy rock. But I used this machine to cut back and move about 30 yards. That's basically 3 dump truck loads worth of soil over this embankment here. So I cut off the hillside on this side, and over here I backfilled it, and I cut away about 8 to 10 feet in the hillside, and I gained about 8 to 10 feet of terrace on the property, and this machine did great. Eventually I got into some pretty rocky stuff, and I had to bring my little mini excavator in with the ripper tooth to kind of break all the material up. But once I broke up many yards of material, I just used the skid steer, and this thing traveled really well. And I usually would never turn my gas skid steer on a dime, just skid and turn. This machine had no problems with the tracks whatsoever. After the 22 hours, I haven't even had to tension them. They've been very reliable. And I use this machine, the reason I was cutting this all back was to build up a little shop area, at least the outbuilding, so I could store all my equipment, and it worked great. So I've had a smaller gas skid steer for the last 2 years, and the biggest difference I've found between the gas and diesel is even this machine is just a little bit bigger. The bucket capacity is almost double the amount, plus it travels a little faster, and the lifting capacity is massively different, way better. So you can move about twice the amount of material, whether that's dirt, logs, gravel, whatever you're moving with it, in about half the time. So really, if it comes down to time and effort, like, you're just taking 1 big scoop with this machine compared to 2 for the gas skid steers, and it handles it without being tippy at all. The machine is very planted and very sturdy, especially for my hilly property. And unlike my gas skid steer, this one actually lifts high enough and tilts far enough that you can actually dump into a full-size 4x4 pickup truck, no problem. Another nice thing is the bucket width compared to the track width. See the tracks there? The bucket's about 2 inches wider or 3 inches wider on each side. Some companies ship these things out with narrower buckets in the tracks, and that makes 0 sense. One of the big things I really like about this machine is the pilot controls. As you can see, you can operate and steer the machine with just 1 thumb on the joystick. It definitely steers a lot nicer and smoother and more intuitive than my other machine. If you've ever ran any video games with a joystick for flying airplanes, it comes pretty natural, so you can do smooth movements of curl, raise, and lower at the same time. Another nice thing is you can travel with this machine forward and manipulate the bucket without any issues. My old gas skid steer, basically as soon as you ran the bucket or lifted the bucket, it would slow or stop one of the tracks, so you couldn't really manipulate the bucket while traveling. This one has no problem with the high flow hydraulic system on it. This machine comes with a Japanese-built Kubota D1105 engine. It's about a 25 horsepower diesel engine. And I feel like this engine's almost overkill for the machine. I've never had it bogged down, never an issue even running demanding attachments. But it's a great simple system. You can see everything's easy to get to, straightforward filters, changing oil, and it's coupled to a really nice variable displacement piston pump. The hydraulic pump puts out plenty of flow for running all the attachments I've ever ran. And I just like the simplicity of being able to reach and get to everything. So this is the RS06-1. I think they're onto the -3 model now with a bunch of different features, but this one runs the simple Toro style quick hitch, which is awesome. It's super affordable to find these attachments online. You can get things from pallet forks, trenchers, hydraulic clamshell clamping buckets. You can get all kinds of different stuff for these machines, augers and stuff like that. But it works really well. This quick hitch is really sturdy, simple to put together. You can find these attachments all over. The lifting capacity on this thing I think is rated at 1,400 pounds, but here I lifted up in front of a Subaru with an engine in it, stepped off the machine, handled the weight no problem. So the -1 model has one set of hydraulic quick couplers. I think the new version actually has dual sets for continuous and momentary flow. But I hooked up this homemade grapple I made for hauling logs. It hauls logs, no problem. It's way sturdier and less tippy for hauling logs in my sawmill than my gas machine. That thing, you go for a bump and it would pitch you up and just a little more sketchy. So kind of the added weight this thing has and the added length makes it very secure, even hauling 2 logs like this, going over rough terrain. It's been awesome. But the hydraulic flow is really great on this machine. I've used it for running simple things that are momentary like this, up to I've ran a hydraulic log splitter I built also on the machine. That's been great. Also did a bunch of trenching for my friend in the fall. He had a water line break, and his neighbor I think had a similar scenario. It cost them like $5,000 to replace it. So I went to his place and I trenched about I think 130, 140 feet of line, and I think it only had a few $100 in line, the cost. And I came there, and even with the soil's pretty good, but we did get into quite a few rocks. And worst comes to worst, if you jam a rock really bad in here, the hydraulic pressure relief kicks in and you reverse the chain and the rock pops out and you keep cutting. So if you had a really gnarly soil, this might not be up for the task, might keep hitting the hydraulic relief, but it had no problem ditching this water line through this soil. It's been a great machine. Plus you can travel with the hydraulics when you're running it. Some of the other machines are not capable of traveling when you're running an accessory. So now let's talk tracks. Now, most of the Chinese skid steers are kind of known to have track problems them coming off, especially the gas machines. In the last 22 hours of using the machine, I've had 0 track problems with it. I've also pushed the tracks harder on this machine than I would with my gas because it's been really reliable. I haven't even had a partial unalignment issue where the tracks kind of tried to come off. Nothing like that. The gas skid steer I had, track would come off every 6 hours or so, partially dismount every 3 or so. This one's been no issues, but the tracks are wider, made out of far thicker material, higher quality, and they're longer. They just seem to hold up. Like I would never do this kind of a task on concrete. Now I did this about 6 times for the video shots for my previous long form review of this machine. And it's not as quick as some machines, but it's quicker than my gas skid steer. But anyways, the tracks have been really good. They also run a hydraulic grease tensioner for the tracks, and I haven't even had to adjust them in the last 22 hours of use on the machine. So now let's talk about maintenance and reliability. Every time I fill this thing with diesel, I just make a habit of all my machines to go through and just lube each pivot point with 1 or 2 pumps of grease. Change the oil was simple on this one. They left a nice opening for getting to the big drain bolt. Add a little funnel, fill it back up again. The dipstick's easy to get to. Most things are pretty simple. One thing I had an issue with, I lost coolant on this machine once and almost overheated it. And it turned out the problem was a hose clamp installed to the factory and too close tolerance to the belly pan. Vibration caused the hose clamp to break. So if you have one of these -1 models, check out your lower radiator hose. Make sure it's not in contact with the blue part of the belly pan. Put a new hose clamp on, filled it up. Luckily, it wasn't a problem. This is not an issue on the -2 and -3 models, just the -1. So if you have this machine, double check that. Another thing I've had an issue with since it was new was it has a little bit of hydraulic bleed down on the loader arms. If you let it sit for, 4 or 5 minutes, it's going to come down about a half an inch just sitting there with nothing in the bucket. I don't really like that, but that's one of the machine's faults, I guess, has had, but that's all I've had issues with. So this thing is far superior than my gas skid steer. No track problems, wider, more robust tracks, more weight, more stability, way bigger lifting capacity and bucket capacity. The controls have just been superior. Plus you can run things like trenchers and other things that require a lot of flow. Can do something like that. Like I like owning a piece of equipment, but a lot of people like will buy something used, name brand. Well, you can get a bunch of really overpriced equipment, name brand, on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace, or deal with someone's broken junk, high hours. Or you can go the renting route. I've had a lot of people suggest that, but I have a lot of property and you never know when a tree or something's going to fall down a driveway and you got to clear it out, and that doesn't really work with a rental unit, especially when it's about an hour away to get one. And I think those rental units are about $450 a day plus a $400 deposit. And a lot of times I'll fire this thing up, work on a project for an hour, hour and a half, and then park it and get everything done. Like, I bring back 8,000 pounds of gravel, want to fix up a muddy spot on my property where I'm walking all the time in mud. Bring this thing back, bring a little gravel back, and you got the 8,000 pounds of gravel moved and spread out and back graded in like half an hour, 40 minutes, if that. And it's just super efficient to have something like this around. A lot of people suggest renting. If you do have a small piece of property, it's probably worth it in the long run, especially if you're doing things like firewood processing, gravel work, terracing, all that kind of stuff. Hands down, it pays to just own one in the long run. Well, I hope you found this video informative, got something good out of it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, leave a nice comment down below. I'll also link to a 40-minute full detail review of this same machine. Also, look forward to long term. I'll have a review up in another 6 months of a 1 year and hopefully a lot more hours on this machine going into the summer months. So if you found the video helpful, thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Till next time, bye.